This is a story about love in a world where love seems to be lacking, especially this week. But I'm sure that love is all around us. Sometimes we can't see it, but we can feel it. And the story today is about the gift of love. It's a story about Grania and David, who lived together a long time ago when all was not equal and life was unfair. Grania and David lived together in a small house. They didn't have much to eat and they worked really, really hard for what they did have. They loved each other so much that their favourite part of the day was when they got to see each other at the end of the day and they shared a very simple meal together, something that both of them had earned in their jobs. But every New Year, at the start of a new year, they had a tradition. New Year's Day was very special in their house because it marked the start of a new year and the start of hope and the start of new beginnings. And Grania and David never lost hope. They always had their dreams, and that's what they celebrated together, everything they had on New Year's Day. And as it came towards New Year's Day, Grania and David worked extra hard and took on some extra shifts. Both of them worked for other people. Grania worked in a big house. She was a cleaner and she did a great job. She was a fantastic worker, but she got paid very little. And David was a gardener and he worked in another big house on the other side of town. Every morning they used to walk together to their work. They'd walk out the door of their little cottage, out the gate, down the lane and onto the main road and towards the town. And at the end of the road, there was a shop. It was a lovely shop. It had lots of lovely trinkets in it, lots of jewellery and interesting things that neither Grania nor David could ever dream about having or owning, but they loved to look at all the shiny, sparkly things in the window. They'd walk to the shop and then Grania would take a left to her job and David would take a right to his job. And then at the end of the day, they would meet outside this shop again and walk home together, hand in hand. Sometimes David was late, and sometimes Grania was late. And they would spend their time waiting, looking in the window. It was one of their favourite things to do. They didn't have a television, or they didn't have computers. They had no screens, and they had very little books. But they did enjoy looking and imagining, because they had a wide, open imagination. Grania had beautiful hair. Grania was a beauty and she had beautiful long blonde hair. She used to take it out every night and she used to brush it at the fire. And one of David's things, one thing he loved to do was to watch Grania combing out her lovely long blonde hair. And David was a proud man. David always looked well. He wore the best clothes he could. They weren't expensive clothes, but he always looked smart. And his favourite thing was his watch. It was an heirloom that his granddad had passed down through the family. It was a beautiful gold watch. And it was probably the most valuable thing that he had, something he never wanted to lose. And when he looked in the shop window while he waited for Grania, he saw a chain for a watch. You know those watches, those old-fashioned watches that you can attach on with a chain? And he wanted to attach it on to himself with a chain from this shop. He had already seen one and he used to look in the window and he used to imagine owning it. And he used to tell Grania, look at that chain. Wouldn't that look lovely on my watch? And Grania, while she waited for David, she used to look in the window too. And the thing that drew her attention was a beautiful clip for hair. Oh, it was wonderful. It was all different. It had a gold base, but it had lots of different coloured jewels in it. There was purple, there was pink, There was red, there was yellow, every colour she could think of. And it was a lovely clip that she could imagine sitting in the back of her hair. So every time she waited for David, she would imagine that, and she'd say to David when he would catch up with her at the shop, David, wouldn't that look beautiful in my hair? Another tradition that David and Grania had as they looked forward to New Year's Day was the exchange of gifts. They had very little money. All of their money went on their food and their bills. But whatever they had, they shared with each other, and they used to traditionally give each other a gift at New Year. And this New Year, both of them felt very happy within themselves and together, and they wanted to mark it in a special way. And both of them really wanted to get each other a special gift. So on New Year's Day, it finally came. Both of them were quite tired. They'd been working right up through the Christmas holidays, right up cleaning other people's houses and fixing other people's gardens. But they finally sat down together to what they considered to be a feast on New Year's Day. They had bread and they had butter and they had jam. And that was a real treat for them. And they drank hot chocolate. And then it came time to exchange their gifts. Grania had her hair tied up and it was under a scarf. David noticed that she wasn't sitting at the fireplace combing her hair. And David sat opposite Grania and they exchanged gifts. He passed over a beautiful package wrapped in pink tissue paper, and she handed over a beautiful package to David wrapped up in green tissue paper. And each one of them opened their gift. Grania couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the sparkling clip in her hands. And David, when he opened his, he saw the shining chain for a watch. They both smiled at each other, and Grania took off her scarf. Her hair didn't fall down as was usual, and David looked downwards and then up. Grania, where is your beautiful hair? It's short. I cut it, Grania said, and I sold it to buy you the chain for your watch. Where is your watch? I sold it to buy you the clip for your hair. And that New Year's Day, they got the best gift of all, true love.